projects that I'm doing around the house or at my workplace. I think a lot of it just has to do with meaning. You don't have to reason so much why to do it. You just kind of go into something and you do it. So I'm not really excited about this project. I got this pergola from somebody. It was for free, but it had been sitting and kind of not doing good at first, like when I first got it. And after a couple of years, the snow sat on the top because there's actually a tarp over the top for shade, and the snow made it all collapse on the inside. So I'm kind of just going in and reinforcing it as much as I can. I'm not going to finish it today because I realized after I started taking the tarp off and taking all the old screws out, um, that I'm going to need to get some new wood in some places and extract some of the screws that broke when it collapsed. But I'm trying to do what I can now. That way I can have like some accurate measurements when I have to go replace pieces of wood. So I should be able to replace some of these and pretty quickly. And then I'll come back and chat over here. If you guys have any questions, just leave them. Um, whatever, comments, anything. Um, but this is the first project on the deck. Then I have to clean the whole deck. I live in the woods, so it always gets covered with like leaves and trees. Then I got to do gutters. And then I got a new grill. I'll actually show you guys that. I'm really excited about it. It's a flat top grill that I will be using to do a lot of my meal prep because I love like eggs and bacon and things. But yeah, I'm going to put this together this afternoon. I've been trying to find a way to make it easier for me to do my meal prepping. Um, and a flat top, 36-inch flat top's a really good way to do that. So that's what I got. Um, plus, my kids are getting older, so we're gonna have more picnics and things like that. And I figure have something really good to cook on. Then I can do all my vegetables, my meats, all at the same time. Um, plus, it's just nice to get outside. Um, get lost in the cooking and just be in your head thinking. So that's what it is. As you can tell, I'm procrastinating doing this. Um, it's probably because I know I'm not going to finish it today. And I'm just kind of doing some of these stuff. So it's still supported in the middle where it broke. And some of those screws are really annoying. I'm not going to lie. So yeah, I'll be honest, this set was pretty cheap to begin with. Um, but it was free. So who am I to complain, right? Um, I got to get some more brackets too. I put in some of so I have two different size brackets. You see, I got the thick ones that go on the bigger pieces, and then the thinner ones that will go on the top pieces. The top pieces really just act as hangers, but still. I honestly dislike working on the deck because there's a lot of spaces in between the boards, and if I drop a screw, which I do a lot, then I have to find it underneath the deck or just get more screws. I mean, I always have a lot of screws on hand, but still. Um, I'm not trying to do every one. I just want to see if I can get it enough to support right now. There we go. Right in. I'll show you guys my drill. So I got my DeWalt drill. I always liked DeWalt when I was doing a lot of construction, building decks and things. Milwaukee was cool too. They're all cool. They're all about the same now. All right. We got this piece. I really like star bits, but most of the screws are commonly Phillips head bits. And whenever you go to change something and you get like the wood screws that have the star bit, it's kind of a little bit weird sometimes having to go between the two. Um, oh, huh. Then another reason that this really didn't last as long as it probably should have is because I have a bunch of carpenter bees here. Yeah, a lot of carpenter bees actually. And they started destroying it. I'll show you some of the holes. I'm going to show you guys what happened with the screws here because they all got warped, which is why I have to replace them now. Oh my gosh. These are probably, oh man, that is not good. I don't even have screws this long, do I? These are like 3-inch screws. I don't think I have 3-inch screws. Let me see what I got. But as you can see, screws got a little bit bent, but hey, it is what it is, right? That's crazy. What do I have? Oh, these might do. Oh, these are, they're thicker and better wood screws. But they're a 1/4 inch short. Let me see if it'll work. If it works, I'm sending it because I don't need to spend a bunch of time doing this actually. The worst case scenario, I call the manufacturer, right? And I ask them to replace the parts because they've already did that. I actually, when I got this kit, there was already one part that was broken. That's how I know it's cheap. But you know what? Yeah, that's not good. We need longer screws, but still got to get some brackets in. It's the biggest thing right now is getting some of those brackets in. So I also had angled brackets, and those I was going to put so that even if it did get some weight, but from now on I'm going to take the tarp off. Then I've got angled brackets. I'm going to put that where the, I guess they're joists technically, kind of meet the header boards. They're kind of like header boards. Um, not really as supportive as a real header board would be, but they're technically header boards. Good, good. Honestly, with these brackets, when I was running my construction company, this is the type of job you give to a young kid who you don't trust with the other stuff yet. It's a good way to learn how to use a drill. Sometimes I feel like when I work at home, I'm really lazy, but usually I'd have my tool belt and stuff, which would keep me much more organized. But because I'm working at home, I don't know. I don't necessarily do that. I keep myself, I give myself room to be a little less organized. I'm not really in a rush to do this anyway. Um, I guess if I was, I would handle this differently. I mean, I still set everything up, but Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it seems like these angled brackets are going to add a lot of support, honestly. Um, I should have bought more of them. But, well, I guess I got 20. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I have 20 of them, so I can do all the insides today. And then on the next one, I would do all the outsides. Like when I go to back to, I got this all at Lowe's. It's right down the street from my house. Well, it's like a 10-minute ride from my house. But I do think this is the path. These brackets will help reinforce everything. Here, let me show you guys what the carpenter bees have done. And they've gone through this whole thing. So this isn't going to last long. But my wife would like to have some picnics coming up. So that's why I'm doing this. So, we're going to do our grill. And I guess it's Father's Day coming up. And I am a father, but here, take a look at this. Let's see if we can see it. You see these holes? Those are all from carpenter bees. And they tunnel through this thing. So that's why I am going to end up calling the manufacturer to get new pieces of board. I don't know if they're going to replace this stuff with carpenter bees, but there's some other things that really shouldn't have happened. Um, so, and I mean, I could assume maybe because the carpenter bees created some flexion in here. Um, this is the kind of stuff that happened. But you'll see like splitting here in these, I guess, what are supposed to be header boards. Um, yeah, just a bunch of weird things happened here that I guess I wasn't necessarily, um, you wouldn't necessarily expect. Yeah, I could put this here. You guys can watch me work. So I'm just gonna go up to every joist type of thing that is here and just start putting in the brackets. Then the easiest way is to put one screw in, get it set, put each bracket up, and then go in and finish it so it's already in place. That's probably my method today. But if you do come in here, if anybody stops into this chat, let me know what's up. Let me know what you guys are working on today. Honestly, just thinking about it. Like, even if you don't have a business or anything yet, but like you're just home, you should try to find some things to do. That's my opinion. It's something that worked out really good for me. Like all the things I know started because like I was bored and my parents needed landscaping done or projects done, and I just started at their house as a young kid, and then it turned into, friends needed stuff and things like that. And my I think what I would suggest to people is, have the skill before you need it. There are common things that you can learn, and you could have it before you actually need to do it. That way, when you need to do it, you can actually make money on it and things like that. That's kind of how I see it. Um, a lot of like this comes from um, working in the assisted living home where I was a maintenance guy too. And, we didn't get a lot of money there. That's just the way they work. They're supposed to be less expensive. So the state doesn't give a lot of money for stuff there. So you have to fix things a lot more than just go out and buy new things. So I learned a lot of these skills there, which was nice. I learned so much there actually. And then it turned into, oh, I can do that for my parents. And I used to, when young kids working with me in construction, that's what I used to tell them. If we do a job and you enjoyed it, you might as well go offer your parents for you to do it for them. So that way, next time you come work for me, you'll be better at it too. That's just the thing. Oh. I'm thinking about it right now. So my shoulder is still messed up. And thinking about it, when I built this last year, I think my shoulder was messed up too. I think that's when I got hurt in jujitsu. Because I remember trying to reach up with the drill and having to work on some weird angles. But it is what it is. Um, kind of know this isn't as much fun as lawn mowing. I love lawn mowing. It is. Lawn mowing is a different thing. I think it's because you're moving too. There's a lot of back and forth. I'm gonna skip this one because that one is the one that had that really bad screw. I feel like if I can get these bracketed in, the ones that are in the right position, it'll be easier than it'll be easier to fix the ones that aren't in the right position if I can get the ones that are already kind of there. It's kind of set in place. That's my belief. We'll see. Uh, so I've also decided I'm going to start talking about type a little bit more. I think I need to, honestly. That's kind of what it is. I need to start talking about type more. A lot of it is that, as a male, I feel like a lot of males were deterred from learning psychology or typology or differences and things like that. And I'm not saying there wasn't a reason. A lot of psychology isn't directed towards males, at least not like positive psychology or anything. I think like really we have to make a push for like a positive male typology. And I've decided I should start talking about that more. But we also have to really take a like scientific approach to it, kind of. I've been listening to a few people. Like I always listen to Jordan Peterson, and then he has his conversations with what is it, John Vervaeke and things. And I think when we talk about type and cognitive functions, a lot of it really has to do with what he's talking about there. And then I also listen to this other YouTuber, like this PF Young guy, and he's talking a lot about what I'm talking about, where, I've always been a very rational person. I know a lot of people like who follow me, they're thinkers. They call themselves rational people. And you could be intuitive, you could be a sensor, because I've talked to both. And no matter what, like to progress yourself in life, just rationalizing things isn't necessarily going to help you do that. And he talks about like the mimetic war kind of that goes on. Everybody sees that, right? Um, and I'm really like when I put out my video telling people like, hey, maybe it's not all about balance, maybe, but like it kind of is. But then like you also have to have a push to the other side. So like if you are very rational, right, and you're a thinker, and you realize like, oh well, other people aren't thinking, but they're doing things better than you, or they're getting the results that they want. Kind of, I guess that's a way to put it. Not better than you, but like they're able to influence people, or they're able to get people on board with their ideas, right? It's because they're using emotion. And I think thinkers do really have to start considering like, where do I use my emotion? How can I use it? Because I think if you're like me, you probably just don't want to, if you've seen some of the very immature displays of emotion from emotional people, you don't want that if you're a thinker. But at the same time, you realize that you're holding yourself back too, kind of. So I think that's why you see a lot of thinkers who actually do the work, like of self-development, who learn young or learn some similar concept or idea, kind of start to realize like, if I just rationalize everything, I am holding myself back. So I kind of want to start talking about that through that type. And then also like that PF Young guy, I like his idea of like people are on those extremes of autistic and schizophrenic. I do kind of see that a lot. And I think that's like where you try to find your balance, is that you don't go like schizophrenic wise, and you don't go um, too autistic where like nothing else can be, kind of. Um, and then like the schizophrenic way is more like everything's possible. And then like someone who's balanced, who has a balance of all of their functions, um, probably doesn't look that disturbed and can handle things in a better way, and is probably like a good person. They're not like autistic in the sense of like it needs to be like this, and they become tyrants, or like schizophrenics where they just kind of like. And I'm not talking about people with disorders. I'm just relating this to like the entire meme, because I've talked about memes before, but you're trying to use PF Young's terms because the kid is smart. He is. He's got a good take on it. Um, I do like the sociological approach to it. I think Young, where people want to call him a mystic, I do think Young was just more sociological than a lot of people in psychology at the time were, because everyone was looking at humans as like a closed system without considering like there's this interplay between in and out. And then like also that P.F. Young guy talks about how like we have all of the as humans, like we have no matter what, like a part of us that wants to get into the intuition side, a part of us that wants to develop these certain types of skills, like the procedural skills and things like that. Um, and, and like also being a like thinker, and if you want to hold on to definitions too tightly, it's going to hold you back a little bit too. Um, so you kind of want to have like that more open interplay, and even understand like your definition doesn't necessarily meet somebody else's definition, but it's good to learn it, because then you can have a conversation if you can like stipulate what you're talking about in a way. So that's where these are coming from. And I do think like not everybody can articulate it the way Jordan Peterson does, but then a lot of people get confused by the way he articulates things too. So I do think it's just important that a lot of people who realize it, because not everybody realizes it, not everybody pays attention to it, not everybody can pay attention to it, right? But I do think it's important that people who do pay attention to it and do see these realities of like different personalities, like within one person, multiple personalities and multiple extremes, is really important to start teaching people, um, and then hope they embody it, right? That's really what I'm trying to do is embody these things. Um, and I don't know. And I'm not saying every human's the same. I would say there's definitely like some things that some people can do that other people just have no access to. Like they have no physical access in their brain. Maybe they have more gray matter in that area or things like that, where they don't actually have the physical structure in their brain, kind of. Um, but I would say that there probably are some things that all humans have the physical structure for. Um, like, if you think of thinking as making the connections between two things that can actually exist. So just think about like the charge on like an atom, basically, or like how like our elements connect and things like that's thinking like you know that there's only one way that can happen, um, or that there needs to be a minimum for things to connect, for like hydrogen and oxygen to bond or things like that. Um, so all humans probably have like an ability for that. All humans can become attached to somebody, like have an emotional feeling, like feel that they are part of like a tribe or something like that. So, maybe you weren't born into that environment where you actually get that sense. I think all humans have an ability to have meaning and honestly find whatever their belief is, like their spirituality. God, I like the idea that it's more that God is more psychological. He is like the fact that we could become aware to the voice inside our head and listen to the voice inside our head. I do like that idea a lot. Um, I think it explains a lot that people often get confused about. Um, so yeah, that's why I'm going to be talking about type more, but it's more about like the development of humans and cognition and the different ways that humans can perceive and judge the world and things like that, more than like, oh, you're this type and you should do this. And the reason is really when I really like the reason this is you can't just do that. It's like that's set up for a world that doesn't allow people to like individuate on their own terms, kind of. Um, really, MBTI itself was just set up as a way to tell women like where they could be in the workplace, which is why we need a more masculine version of it, in my opinion. Um, because I do think, yeah, it's just for men, it's just going to be a significantly different approach to your development, what your roles are capable of. Jordan Peterson's talked about it. Like part of being the male is that you can basically climb more hierarchies than you really can. No matter how society wants to try to set things up, it's always going to come out that men can climb more hierarchies, the multitudes of hierarchies within the environment. Um, so, that's why men don't keep themselves limited to it's even though that's the way it's taught and everything, I think they can extend beyond that without a doubt. Um, and women still climb the hierarchies, but it's just less hierarchies. The idea is that men are going to go to war if anything happens. Women aren't. It's just a fact. I mean, some will, but even at that, that would make men feel uncomfortable, and things like that. So I don't know. That's why I just definitely think that you need to start considering the reality that there should be a different typology for men than there should be for women. Um, and that the way it's set up right now is basically designed by mostly females. Jung didn't have the same idea that Myers and Briggs had. He criticized it actually. He made it clear that there's like this problem of trying to put people into a type because if we just started doing that, we accepted that as a social norm. Like this person is this type from the day they're born, they would have no individuation. They would be a node in the system doing what they're told to do. At the same time, you have to accept that you are part of a society, a tribe. There's a lot of external things outside of you, right? And you want to teach people how to find that themselves. Like that is where I think like what intuition is. I'm sorry, I know, you know, because everyone's so such type, it does sound like there's a bias. But if you actually think about what the reality is, SE at its at its like reality is a frog. Like I hate to say it because people don't want, but like no one's just an SE type. It's just they haven't put themselves in the place to get to that more intuitive thing, which is a higher level of reasoning. And I guess, when people do talk about this, I hear Brian Keating, he's always criticizing um, Sam Harris as being more evolved or something like that. And it's like, that's kind of how people say it. Are you willing to, like, do you think more? But it's like, no, you can teach yourself to be more evolved in a way, than just reacting to reality, understand what type of reaction is necessary in the moment, like as something is happening, not just relying on your instincts to, put someone down or anything like that. And I think there's that reality to it. And overall, it's what makes you become a better person, kind of, I guess you could say. Um, but it's to me, it's not it's not like I guess like, oh, and then also like so I have to explain everything in order for it to make sense. Like I would say like you probably have different ways of typing even. Like there's probably a type that you look like. Like I've seen people who look very similar, like mannerisms, like their facial structure, the color of their hair, their eye shape, all those types of things, the way they speak goes to mannerisms, and all of that, and that's probably they probably have a real physical type, but that's not necessarily saying what their psychological type is. So that's like an SE type, and then like an SI type is like the type based on where they were grown. So like, you know, you might have someone who looks like who at the SE type looks like maybe, I don't know, an ESFJ, right? But because of SI, maybe they had parents who were more academics. So then when they go and interact with the world, they're taking their SI with them. And even though they're an ESFJ, maybe they do more academic things. So then they have like their SI type. And then, maybe there is this like FI type, maybe like that ego of like, who am I? Where like somebody goes, takes a test the first time and they're going to get the type that they authentically, maybe something they aspire to, someone that they admire, or something like that. And then maybe there's like an FE type. Who are they when they're trying to fit into a tribe? And I do think you can look at it like that. Though it's more complex than most people can handle. It's just the truth. Most people would rather, and honestly, if you're just using the type the way it is, that's SI. It's like you're taking information from somebody and you're learning about it and then you're using it and bringing it somewhere else. And that's SI. And I think like a lot of people don't really realize it, but that is what SI is. It's learning from somebody else's system and taking it. Where like the intuitive functions are more about creating your own patterns, like extending on something. You don't want to use those patterns that have been used and aren't really the best patterns. So you extend on it using your intuition, because intuition is all about new things. And a lot of people are deterred from that. I was deterred from that. Whenever I came up with ideas in classrooms, I remember teachers not liking it. I remember one of my first semesters in college, like years ago, before I went back and went full time like I am now. A teacher goes, "Oh, everybody already has the procedures that you need to figure this out." And I said, "Well, I'd rather figure it out on my own. I don't like to take, that's where I kind of see, like, I don't really use SI like that, in the sense of like, I don't take other people's things and just take them for what they say they are. I always have to transform them. And that is what intuition does. And I think people kind of have to like understand that. And, I also think that you have a blue collar and white collar divide where, like, if you're blue collar, people aren't going to see you as intuitive, which is completely wrong. It transcends all cultures. And then some cultures are more blue collar and some cultures are more white collar. You're going to see all different types on both sides. And honestly, I don't think you see online a lot of people say like NI is all is like in colleges or in academics and stuff. It's like, no, that's not what NI is. Like you have more of a chance of seeing NI DOMs on a construction site than you do in a college in our reality. What you see in college is a lot of SI. And that's just the reality. You also have the potential to see because, and then also like you have to think about the times when you understand NI is about moving away from the current and the past into the future. What's going on at the times within the ecosystem or the environment, NI is going to move away from that, like trying to change that, transform that. And people should kind of think about that a little bit because, NI was probably when people were really religious, NI was moving more towards the intellectual space. Same thing with NE probably. Um, then when things were more intellectual and enlightened and everything could be handled with the rationality, then NI probably moved more towards a spiritual space. And I really do think that's how you have to really consider it. And like if you look at our times right now, NI is different. A lot of I'm just gonna say like a lot of people who say they're NI, I'm like, no, you're SI. Like you aren't coming up with your own things. You aren't transforming systems. And that's what these functions do is they transform systems. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, hey, you could grow. You could start looking at things another way. And I think people, especially men who are sick of like I think a lot of the reason that men are so like depressed and you see this online all over and are opting out is because there is no system for them because men have to start evolving like they have to raise their evolution like they really do like that's where we're at. Women are doing it. They're filling the schools, they're filling the workplace. Men need to find their next place because we climb higher up in the hierarchy. It's just a fact. We always have. Um, Unless we give up our spot and we choose not to create these systems and not enough men speak out. And I'm saying when I talk about this, like you have to speak intellectually, you have to speak about these ideas that then people can start picking up and understand. Like I said, most people are SI. Like they are going to take your ideas. They don't want to come up with their own, but if yours is good, they will attach to it. They will take it in as something that they follow. It's mimicry. Um, and that's what a lot of people, that's how a lot of people um, navigate their life, I would say. But yeah. Anyways, mm, I should probably do some more work, but I'm just gonna move this, and you guys can watch. If anyone comes in here, that'd be cool. Let me know what kind of projects you guys got going on, and I'm gonna keep doing this. I only got, I think, 10 more on this side. I have brackets in. Man, I gotta figure out. Maybe I'm just gonna take a measurement of these boards that are running this way, right? I just gotta know how thick they are. And then I can sister board them. Because the thing is, I don't want to go in and have to extract all those screws. It's gonna take forever. So if I measure these, get the thickness, and then just use sister boards to connect them, and I'm gonna use better screws than what was given with the original kit, that should work. It definitely should work. Um, but I want to have all the insides secured. Ah, man, just if I was building this from the ground up, it would be done right, right? But I'm not, and that's the problem. And when I do decide to build one from the ground up, I'll probably have to stream that because it'll be really good. I've built a few pergolas, um, shed, decks. It was really when I was running my construction, well, when I was more running a landscape company, and every once in a while somebody would say, "Oh, do you know anybody who does this? And I had a really good carpenter I worked with. The deal was he would give me a good price. I would do some of the work with him. So I just learned how to do some of it. Um, then it turned into like I ended up just subcontracting him or somebody else out, depending. Yeah, and another thing about the masculinity thing, you can check my comments. People always comment on it. People don't want men to like talk about it or raise themselves up. I'm just gonna say that. Like they come in and like say like people who say anything about men being emasculated, like whatever, I don't, they're fools or something. I don't remember exactly what they say, but it's like, okay, well, anyone who says that women were oppressed ever are fools. It's like, no, anything can happen to anyone. I mean, men shouldn't be allowing it to happen to them because, like I said, you can climb the hierarchy higher than others. But at the same time, I do think men should be respectful. Like, it doesn't mean like be absurdly dominant or anything like that. It just means, have a role, understand your significance, and fulfill it. That's pretty much what I'm getting at. Right? Sometimes I have to make sure because I don't want to sound like some of the male influencers who are, I would say, I think they're trying to do the right thing, but they don't know how. And then they end up making men angry, telling them to do foolish things, you know. So that's why I say we need more good men to speak up. And I think I don't, I guess he's a good man. Like, I think he's probably better than we give him credit for. And I do think he's probably been set up a lot, but I think he also does a lot of really stupid things. Like, I don't know. I really judge anyone who promotes like the OnlyFans stuff. It's not really good for our society. You are going to have a bunch of females who aren't going to be able to get married because honestly, if you're a guy who marries a girl who did OnlyFans, it's not good for you. Trust me. It's crazy. And I don't know, that's where our society is right now. So it's like I can't respect people who promote that behavior because it is not good for our society. Never has been. I don't care what anyone says. And honestly, it's kind of interesting to me that it's not like banned, really. I mean, it puts a lot of risk for children, not just women, like children too. Like a lot of these things end up being used extremely wrong. I mean, the fact that they exist is wrong. It also makes it too easy for people to opt out of like building a real life and making real meaning. You know, I've said it before, women are chaos. That's part of the fun. Kids are chaos. You live in chaos. The world is chaos. You know, it's just a reality, and it's just our jobs to bring order to it. That's what I would say. And that is where meaning comes from. Jordan Peterson talks about that. He gets a lot of criticism, but he was a he is a really good man. You know that. If you know about Jordan, I think he pushed himself to the limits on the spirituality thing, and I do believe that is why he is sick. To be honest with you, um, as somebody who's grown up very spiritual, like, I grew up in the church, but I always had to find my own reasoning. I never even like really read the Bible, um, even though like I went to Catholic school and everything. But I always believed, and I can just tell you, like, you can push your psyche into some very weird places by being a believer and not doing it gradually. I think that's what you see sometimes when people take like when they try to find their spirituality through like hallucinogens or things like that. And I mean, that's what I'm kind of saying is like I've done those when I was younger and I was trying to find other ways of finding meaning and then realizing like that wasn't the best way. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it was interesting. I definitely learned a lot. And I think it does give you access to something that you won't have in the traditional world. I wouldn't say it's something you should, it's not really something you could do all the time. It's probably better than a lot of the other drugs, but I still think like you still have to like work your way up to those the stages. Like I've always said, like there will be a point in my third. I'm 33 now, and there will be a point where I do a retreat with like ayahuasca and stuff. But I need to know I'm in the right mindset. I know I need to do the work before I do that because I understand like the changes that happen after those kind of things. Um, and that's what I'm just saying. Like I don't think Jordan Peterson was always spiritual. I think he found it, and then he got like he went deep into it, which I think can actually really hurt your psyche if you don't do it gradually or from a young age. Uh, but yeah, and I think that's might be why he's sick now, to be honest. It definitely puts a physical and psychological toll on you to get into spirituality, especially at an older age after living a life in academics and abiding by rationality, because you do have to kind of lose your rationality to be spiritual. Um, or spend enough time with rationality. That might have been what happened with him. I think he spent enough time with rationality and realized like there is an intuitive aspect to life where like, you know, even if something's not rational, you have to still follow it, right? You have to hold it as a conviction. And honestly, and I said this, so I went into DJ Granville's chat yesterday. I was telling him like, you know, the reason people have a problem with type is because we can give as many objective facts, but someone's interpretation of the fact is going to be different. We can see that with gender. Like it's obviously there's a fact of male and female. Like there are facts that point to that, but then somebody else uses other facts and kind of points to other things. And it's like if you don't hold your intuition, then you're just going to have to go with somebody else's logic, kind of. Or you're just going to, if it's like just TI and FE, you're not going to have the will to assert the truth, kind of. Um, that's why intuition is important. I think that's what Peterson was realizing. It was like, oh, if he stayed in academia, he basically had to go with the facts of the time. Where if he went into spirituality, he could find his intuitive process. And I think that's what we see from him, honestly. And I don't think you need a type necessarily. I think he's like, if he was going to be a type because of that development, even if you hear it, like he talks about how he was like almost an ESFP. They were doing rough things and going out into the woods when he was like in his early college days or late high school days and things. And like then he probably went into academia where you see more of like an ENTJ thing, like a TE thing. And then like, you know, he got into his intuition. So maybe he's like a ENTJ who started at, and it's just true. Like I know lots of ENTJs, they weren't always as TE as they are now. They had to develop it. And the reason they could develop it is because they did SEFI. And I know a lot of people don't know what these are because I have a lot of new subscribers, but these are cognitive functions that Carl Jung came up with. Um, and basically, it was just his explanation of the psyche. And he basically said that people were thinkers, feelers, right? Then there were intuitives and sensors. And intuiting and sensing is a perceiving function. So it's how you perceive the world or perceive yourself if it's an inward function, like some people call it worldview for introverted sensing. Okay, so you have the four functions, and then you have attitudes. So introverted and extroverted attitudes, and then judging and perceiving attitudes. And basically, you get your MBTI type as you are either introvert, extrovert, intuiting, sensing, thinking, feeling, and judging and perceiving. And it does work, like especially when somebody is like building up their ego. That the basic way is good. But what about when you've already have the skills and then you know you're just sitting at a job and you're like, there should be more to life. That's where the stuff gets interesting. When you start saying, oh, there should be more to life, and you start pursuing it, then you see changes in people's personality. And and sometimes you see people do this right when they get out of high school. Like, they were this kind of student, and then, one experience in their life made them say, oh, I'm going to do this instead. And, like, the goody two shoes who goes and ends up like becoming a partier or club promoter or something. Um, Look at Chris Williamson. I mean, the dude was a club promoter, and now I don't think he does that so like anything like that so much. He's more trying to get into his feelings and things like that. So there are big changes in people's lives, and I don't think it always necessary. Like you can, at the end of their life, yeah, you could probably say, oh, they're this type because they started here, they went through these stages and these transitions. Like Jordan Peterson, he's at that point where you can say, yeah, he's probably ENTJ. Um, you might have said ESTJ if he didn't go down that spiritual route and just kind of stuck with his academic stuff. But then you also see the danger of people actually using their intuition. He got attacked. And anybody who does is going to get attacked. It's just the reality. People aren't going to like them. And that's what I said about Jung too. Like he got kicked out of institutions because he didn't go along with what they said, because he was following his own intuition. There's no way SI does that. Just think about it. Which is why I don't think people are really SI DOMs, which is why this isn't biased. It's just the reality of how people process things. And then if you ever really read what Jung said about Job, you're really going to understand it, because he was basically trying to say how Job changed, how God changed because of the interaction. And that's what he was kind of trying to show people. That's why he went to the East to see how things were done differently from the West, so he could have more interaction. And that's the truth. And it's very important that we keep talking about it. Very important. I really like these drinks. The lemon one is really, really good. I have the other one that have the raspberry and mango. I thought raspberry was going to be the one I liked the most, but this is the one I like the most. It's lemon, and I don't usually like lemon flavored things that much, but this is where it's at. All right, so I got those ones in. Oh man, probably gonna get some thicker board, and I'm gonna run it from this post to here, and then screw through this side. It's something I'm going to do. I gotta figure out how to keep this supported. Um, a lot of the hardware that came with it just, I don't know. Usually this type of wood wouldn't break so easily, but it cracked in a lot of spots. And I'm thinking those bees have something to do with it, but I'm not sure. All right. But I definitely got to reinforce some of those. Just trying to think of what can I do now. That's a lot. I need the wood. I gotta go to Lowe's and get it at some point. But this, I hope it makes it through the summer. That's what I'm really hoping. Now I gotta go in and shoot some screws upwards into each of those brackets, basically. That's what I'll be doing. Oh, I didn't know what that button did. Okay, there's a bunch of buttons on the side of this, and I don't know which one. I don't know what happens when I push them. Um, what does this one do? Oh, this one says lighting. I don't know what that means. This one says retouch. What does that even mean? Geez, my hair is getting long. I gotta get a haircut soon. Oh no. I told you guys the other day I'm not a fan of bees. There's a bee. Uh, I've never been bothered by the carpenter bees. I don't know if they sting, but they obviously drill some pretty nasty holes. Um, yeah, I'm procrastinating. I'm excited to build my grill more than this, but I have to go get those screws out. So let me go do that. Gotta charge my phone. Otherwise, it's about to die probably. I actually don't necessarily like streaming on my phone because once you s- set the rotation of the camera, it is pretty much in place. And I didn't realize that. I like using my OPS system. Um, it's interesting. Okay, need some comments. All right, let me go finish this up. 1, 2, 3. All right, that one. Nice. Oh, let's see. So far, I've only lost. I think it's 3 screws, 2 or 3. Yeah, the other side's definitely going to need the same thing. So I have to go buy another kit of these brackets. The other side needs brackets too. Honestly, this should have came with the kit. Any good engineer or architect knows that now. Most things need bracketing where they previously weren't. If you look at any new type of thing like this, you'll see a lot more metal bracketing where things connect. There's a reason for that. So I'm doing this project while my wife took the kids out because my son wants to help me build the grill. That's fine. That's not terrible. But to this project, I was nervous because I have all of this supported. I do not know what happened there, but it said stream interrupted. I was talking about I was talking about um, how my son is I'm teaching him to rollerblade now, and how I think that getting him into wrestling early really helped make it so that he could get good at rollerblading pretty quickly. Um, So yeah, about my channel anyway. I really am trying to see how to organize everything so that it all makes sense to people. Because I do get, if you're a conservative man like me, you probably, it probably never was promoted to you to be like spiritual. I'm lucky that my mom was actually a very spiritual person who did promote that. So I was able to find that part of me a lot of throughout my life. Um, but you can, it's hard to argue when people kind of say like conservative men only think about like their work and stuff. I do think like that's important without a doubt. It's like when people say money isn't important, I'm like, yeah, it's not important, but you can't do anything else that is important if you don't have money, right? And I would say it's the same thing with like a lot of other things, you know. So my goal is to help show young men. You know, I talk to a lot of young men in the gym, and they're definitely different than my generation. I'll just say, if when I was a teenager, if I had been talking about younger Jordan Peterson, I likely would have gotten made fun of. I'll be sitting in the sauna with some young guys every once in a while, and they'll be talking about it. So I can definitely see the generation is coming up, but at the same time, you don't want them to go too far that way, where they start to think that sitting around being a hippie is going to fulfill their life with meaning. 'Cause it seems like it's very complicated, guys. It's not that straightforward. There are times for one-sidedness. There are times for integration. There are times for more holistic thinking, and there are times for more analytical thinking. Sometimes men need to be more compassionate. Sometimes women need to be more resilient, more rational, whatever you want to call it. I do think being rational allows you to be resilient. Um, so that's what I'm trying. So I think because my AirPods were almost dead, it doesn't really make sense. Had them in the case, maybe they weren't charging. I think because of that, the stream's been cutting out. Uh, but whatever, I'm just doing the work anyway. I wonder if you guys can hear me while I'm talking still, but probably. Um, what I was explaining was that my channel, I really want to like, I really want to be bringing that. It for everybody. Um, um, it's going to be a technology system more for obviously. I think it just needs to be different than the technology system that's been used. So we need to reconsider all the functions and that's I do think that what we encourage men to do is stay stagnant now. You know, find a role in society and stay there until you die and make your money and support people and things like that. However, I do think that like that's the problem. That was never how humans were meant to exist. It was good to have those types of things, but you know, if you spend enough time in one industry, right? at some point you should be able to move and recreate those patterns. That's my entire point. And do it in a better way than it was previously. But that is just something that I think is important. And I think there are a lot of people working on it. There needs to be more. I think more men need to teach young men how to do this. That's why I was saying, I see the young men at the gym who are listening to Peterson, Jordan Peterson. And I see the young men. Something is up with this phone. Maybe the YouTube app updated and it just keeps closing out on me for some reason. Not really too sure. Um, yeah, the young men are definitely different than men. I would have definitely been made fun of for talking about young. I just know that. And I think they're looking for something more than like, just what job am I going to get? I think they are looking for meaning and purpose. And I don't think they're going to find that by opting out of society or any of the traditional roles. They may find it by entering into those traditional roles and realizing they can move through the hierarchy much faster than they have been. And you know what? That may take getting into some other functions. And really, you have to admit, going into those roles that have been pre-established by society is an introverted sensing thing, and it's a sensing thing. And then as they move up and they recreate the patterns or create their own patterns or make new patterns, um, which is just what they have already experienced, but they are improving it. They will find more meaning rather than ending up 40 years old and just hating their job because they never improved the workplace. They never took initiative and built themselves up and built the thing that they wanted. That's what we need to do. And it's not just labor. It's like, write books. I talk to a lot of old people too, and like they've retired and then they're like kind of bored. And I'm like, well, maybe you need to write a book. You have a lot of life experience. Maybe you need to share that with the next generation, especially if you've worked in a certain industry that has a lot of problems. I try to encourage older people. And this is what Young was really doing. It was like he realized, people, there would already be this system for people to go to college or go into the workforce. And then, they would work through there. That's why he said life starts at 40. That has meaning. Why did he say that? Let's think about it really. He had to have said that for a reason. And it's because he realized that there was going to be transitions of your life, that you were going to move up the hierarchy if that's what it should be, and that we shouldn't. Like he kind of realized, like we would be able to put everybody in a box one day, probably based on just how they look. We've already done that in other ways, right? But now if we could say, oh, this person will be good at this, then we put them there for their entire life. And I think he realized that would be the goal of science at one point, and that we needed to look at it more deeply because I do think like if you raise people start like from the time they're born to start thinking like that, and there will be this point where they don't question. It becomes a dogma. It would just essentially turn into a dogmatic practice in our society. Um, we could get everybody a job and just a role in society, and they would fill it. Where I think Young realized, like by 40, you should probably add more to your life, or something like that. Um, and that's why he didn't stay in academia, because he realized that he would just be following a dogmatic thing that wouldn't give him any opportunity to think outside the box or um, consider other possibilities or anything like that. And no, when I suggested this, people are like told me they're not sure if that model is true. If I'm right, I'm pretty sure it's accurate. Um, honestly, it was INTPs who told me they weren't sure, but at the same time, why do INTPs always type? It's because they're too smart for type. They really are. But then they also have the SI. And I'm just using this because, like that's where they are at this stage of life. They also have the SI that tells them, like, this is how it is. So if INTPs really want to think about this, they can definitely get into any and start realizing, yeah, it's not stuck there forever. You're not just a type that can think and not act forever. You might have to start doing some exploration. And you would then be able to see it, and you would have this any perception of how things work rather than an SI perception of how things work. And then, like, once you realize that, then you're going to get angry because of more broken systems, right? But you're going to have an explanation for a better system. Then you would have to get into your intuition in order to express that system. Say, this is where things are going if we keep using this system. And here is a better system. And then, because if you did that, you would have to, INTPs would end up in their feelings. Like, it's just the truth. And you need feelings in order to use introverted intuition. So you need your own feelings in order to use introverted intuition. You need to understand, like, in order to use extroverted intuition, you need to understand that harmony as you understand it is being disrupted. And this is science too. Like, this isn't my belief. It's like anybody who's done research on intuition realizes it's strongly connected to your feelings. But we really could think about it like it's most likely that, like, there's that extroverted intuition that is, I mean, because you're looking for you're looking for potential possibilities, however you want to put it. You're prospecting, likely to meet a standard, uh, because you can even, like, there are, like, and when you have prospects, like people who go out and look at athletes, they're prospecting, right? Possibilities for their team. How can we maintain harmony in our team? So it's FE and NE are together. So at the NE and FI make a lot of sense, and NE and F together. Um, any scientific research shows that in order to use the intuitive function, you need a feeling behind it. And actually, anyone who's, like, been considered an intuitive, like, through any kind of research, usually actually shows that they have, like, these cross connections from the left hemisphere to the right hemisphere, um, which means, like, you take the analytical thinking and then you express it holistically. Yeah, that is how I see it. So, like, NE is still, like, you can't think about potential possibilities, right, unless you have SI. Like, you're going off of that. You're making connections from the past and thinking it's better. And is acting, like, expressing it. I like to think of it more as like, and it's what it sees, like what it's experiencing in the moment, like, and it's often identifying things as, like, right or wrong, because if you do it this way, the outcome will be bad. If you do it this way, the outcome would be good, kind of. Where SI does that same thing, except really their expectation of what's going to be right is based on what they've learned, not based on uh, changing a standard or the way something is done right now. Yeah, and, like, look at who were the anti gods, like Nietzsche, that's one of them. Jesus, the Buddha, like, they move themselves out of society. Um, and any dumb is just